Every morning, as you gently open your eyes, life quietly offers you a blank page. Yet many people, before even leaving the bed, rush to fill that page with worry, doubt, and familiar limitations. The new day has not truly begun, but the mind has already grown heavy. What if this morning you did not hurry to write another story? What if your first thoughts were not about the problems waiting ahead, but simply about returning to yourself, right here, in this moment? In the teachings of the Buddha, the strength of a day is not measured by how much you accomplish, but by where your mind rests when the day begins. The first quiet moments after waking are where the direction of the entire day is set. The words you whisper to yourself in the morning are not meant to force you to become stronger, but to gently remind you to return. And these 5 reminders are not here to change your whole life, but to help you begin the day more grounded, more aware, and more gentle with yourself. Reminder 1. I am not my past. This moment is new. Many mornings, as the body has just awakened, the past has already risen before us. Without even opening our eyes, familiar memories appear. An unfinished conversation, a mistake that has not yet been forgiven, an old image that makes the heart grow heavy. We lie there in the room of the present, yet the mind is living in another time. The new day has not truly begun, but the burden is already there. What makes the morning feel heavy is not what lies ahead, but what we carry from yesterday. We wake up with a familiar thought about ourselves, that I am someone who fails, I am not good enough, I am someone who has done wrong. These sentences repeat so quietly that we begin to believe they are the truth of who we are. And then the whole day passes in the effort to live according to that old story. In the teachings of the Buddha, suffering does not arise from memory itself, but from clinging to memory. Memories are only traces of what has passed. But when we identify ourselves with them, when we believe the past is who we are, suffering begins. We no longer live in this moment, but inside a story retold again and again in the mind. When we say to ourselves that this is the kind of person I am, we lock ourselves into a fixed image, while the Dharma reminds us that nothing about us is fixed. This body changes day by day. This mind changes moment by moment. Thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. Yet we choose to believe an old story and allow it to guide our entire day. The sentence, I am not my past, is not a denial of what has happened. It does not ask us to forget the past, nor does it force us to be positive. It gently reminds us that the past is not our essence. What has happened are conditions that have already passed. They may have influenced us, but they do not have the right to decide who we are in this moment. In Buddhist understanding, what we call the self is only a temporary combination of body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. There is no permanent self standing behind it all that can truly be called me. When we understand this, we begin to see that the sentence, this is who I am, is only a thought appearing in the mind, not an absolute truth. In the morning, when thoughts of the past arise, we often do not recognize them as just thoughts. We hear them, believe them, and allow them to shape how we feel. But if we pause for a moment, we can see that these thoughts are no different from any other thoughts. They arise and they pass if we do not hold on. When we remind ourselves that this moment is new, we are not convincing ourselves that everything will be better. We are simply returning to a very simple truth. This moment has never existed before. This breath is the first breath of today. This light is new light. Nothing in this moment is required to carry the past unless we choose to do so. The Buddha used the image of a river to speak about impermanence. We may stand by the river every day, but no drop of water is the same. The river of today is not the river of yesterday, even if we call it by the same name. We are the same. We may call ourselves by the same name, but what is happening in our body and mind is always changing. The past is like the rocks the river has flowed over. They are part of the journey, but they do not define the water. When we identify ourselves with those rocks, we forget that our true nature is to flow, to live, to change. Each morning, try to notice your first breath. The breath has never existed before. It carries no memory and no plan. It is simply happening. When we breathe in and know that we are breathing in, we return to the truth of this moment. The breath is a gentle reminder that we are not trapped in the past. As long as we are breathing, we have the capacity to live differently. We do not need to become a new person. We only need to be fully present with the person who is here right now. Morning practice is not about pushing memories away. The more we try to push them, the more strongly they pull us back. Instead, when an old image or a familiar story appears, simply recognize it. The past is visiting. There is no need to argue, analyze, or believe it. When we look at the past with mindfulness, it gradually loses its weight. It is no longer a verdict, only a memory. We can learn from it, but we do not need to live inside it. Keeping a gentle distance from the past is a deeply compassionate act toward ourselves. We do not deny what has been, but we also do not allow it to occupy the entire present. We give ourselves permission to begin the day without having to prove anything. When the sentence, "I am not my past," is spoken in the morning, it feels like placing something down. We put down old roles. We put down familiar labels. We give ourselves a little space to breathe. When we are no longer carrying the old self, the shoulders naturally feel lighter. We do not need to force ourselves to become different right away. We only need to stop blaming ourselves for what has already happened. From that gentleness, a new space opens. Within that space, we can respond differently. We can speak more kindly to ourselves. We can move more slowly. We can listen more deeply. Not because we have completely changed, but because we are no longer tightly bound by an old story. This morning does not demand a perfect version of you. It simply invites you to be present without carrying unnecessary weight. When we begin the day with the truth that this moment is new, we give ourselves a chance to live differently, even if only a little. And sometimes, just a little difference is enough to turn the whole day in another direction. This morning does not need a new person. It only needs that you do not carry the old one. Reminder 2. I do not need to fix my life this morning. There are many mornings when, as soon as we open our eyes, we carry a familiar feeling that something is not quite right. We have not yet sat up, have not yet taken a full breath, and already a list of things to fix appears in the mind. Fix ourselves, fix our circumstances, fix our emotions, fix our entire life. We wake up not to live, but to begin a quiet race with ourselves. The new day has not truly begun, yet the pressure to become better is already there. That feeling of not being enough is very subtle. It does not always show itself as despair. Sometimes it takes the form of motivation, of the desire to improve, of the thought that we need to try harder. But deep inside, it is still a form of unease, a silent belief that if we do not do something right away, if we do not fix ourselves from the very morning, life will continue to drift off course. And so, even while still lying in bed, the mind begins to tighten. In the teachings of the Buddha, suffering does not come from life being imperfect, but from the craving for it to be different right now. We want everything to be better, faster, more in line with our wishes. We believe that only when something is fixed can we finally be at ease. Yet it is this very craving that prevents us from being at ease. The morning, instead of being a place where life begins, becomes the place where control begins. The sentence, "I do not need to fix my life this morning," is not a statement of giving up. It does not tell us to neglect our life, nor does it deny responsibility. It simply reminds us of something very basic. This morning does not need to carry the weight of our entire life. Not every problem needs to be solved the moment we wake up. Some things only need to be seen, not acted upon. Some emotions only need to be felt, not repaired. Our body in the morning is still very tender. It has just passed through a long night and is only beginning to return from deep rest. The heartbeat, the breath, the inner organs are all slowly coming back online. Yet we often treat the body like a machine that must operate immediately. We force it to get up quickly. We force it to be alert quickly. We force it to be ready for a long day. And when the body cannot keep up, we blame ourselves for being weak. Our mind is the same. The mind does not need to think through the entire day in the first moment of the morning. Yet we often pull the future in too early. Work, relationships, responsibilities, things unfinished, things not yet achieved. All of them appear at once, leaving the mind with no space to breathe. We call this preparing for the day, but in truth, it is making the day heavy before it has even opened. The Dharma does not teach us to always act. It teaches us to know when to pause, to know when simply seeing clearly is enough. The morning is a very special time. It is like a door that has just opened. If we rush through that door carrying a full load, the whole day that follows will carry that weight as well. But if we pause for just a moment, even a very small one, we can step into the new day with more lightness. The practice of this reminder is very simple. When you wake up, there is no need to set goals. No need to make plans. No need to tell yourself that today must be different from yesterday. Just breathe. Just feel the body lying there. Feel the breath moving in and out. Feel the contact between the body and the bed. Feel the light gradually filling the room. Add nothing. Take nothing away. When we allow ourselves to simply breathe and simply feel, something quiet and unexpected happens. Tension begins to soften, not because the problems have been solved, but because we are no longer trying to solve them in this moment. We allow the morning to be the morning. We allow ourselves to not yet be okay. In that absence of effort, the mind begins to widen. We see more clearly what truly matters. We see that not every thought needs a reaction. Not every emotion needs to be fixed. Some things only need to be listened to, and then they naturally settle. When we do not force the morning to produce results, the day begins to open in a more natural way. Less tension does not mean becoming passive. It simply means choosing a rhythm that is more aligned with the life that is unfolding. When we do not try to fix our life in the morning, we are trusting that life has its own rhythm. We do not need to seize control from the very first moment. We can walk with life instead of pulling it along. From that gentleness, the right actions will arise later. Not from pressure, but from clarity. Not from fear, but from understanding. A day that begins with permission often flows more smoothly than a day that begins with force. We work more effectively when the mind is not compressed. We treat others more kindly when we are not harming ourselves from within. This morning does not ask you to become a better version of yourself. It simply invites you to be more fully present. When you remind yourself that I do not need to fix my life this morning, you allow life to unfold in its own way. You place your trust in the process rather than in pressure. And from that trust, the new day opens not as a problem to be solved, but as a space to be lived. Not fixing life in the morning is a very deep way of respecting life itself. Reminder 3. Everything I need to live this day is already here. Many mornings, as soon as we wake up, our hands already move towards searching for the phone, searching for a new message, searching for a sign that today will be better than yesterday. We have not yet felt the first breath of the new day, yet the mind has already turned outward. We wait for a confirmation, a smooth day at work, a positive response. It seems that only when something comes from outside can we feel safe enough to begin living the day. This habit of searching has become very familiar. We look for safety in plans. We look for our value in work. We look for a sense of fullness in the eyes of others. And when we do not find it, the mind becomes restless. A feeling of lack appears, even though we are still breathing, still alive, still here. We think we are missing something, but what we are missing is often not something outside. What we are missing is the act of returning. In the teachings of the Yaltiyu Buddha, people suffer not because they do not have enough, but because they do not see what they already have. The Dharma speaks of taking refuge in oneself, meaning relying on oneself, not in the sense of isolation, but in recognizing that the most stable foundation of life lies right here in this body and this mind. Buddha nature is not something to be searched for. It is the capacity for awareness, understanding, and love that already exists within each person. When we remind ourselves that everything I need to live this day is already here, we are not saying that we need no one, that we need to do nothing, or that we do not need the world. We are simply reminding ourselves that to live fully today, we do not need to become someone else, nor do we need to add anything in order to be allowed to be here. We already have this body. We already have this breath. We already have the ability to know what is happening within us. In the morning, many worries arise from the confusion between true needs and craving. Our true needs are very simple. We need to breathe. We need to eat. We need to rest. We need to be safe. But craving has no end. We want more recognition. We want to be loved in a certain way. We want the future to be more certain. And when craving appears, the mind is no longer here. It runs ahead, searching for what is not yet present. Buddhist teaching does not tell us to abandon all desires. It only invites us to see them clearly. When we cannot distinguish true needs from craving, we live in a constant state of lack. But when we see clearly that in this moment our basic needs are already met, the mind begins to soften. We can continue working, continue building, but we are no longer running in panic. The practice of this reminder begins very gently. When you wake up, instead of checking what you lack, try to recognize what is already here. This body is lying here. The breath is moving in and out. The heart is still beating. Light is still filling the room. Awareness still knows that you are alive. Nothing more is needed for this moment to be valid. When we place a hand on the chest and feel the heartbeat, we are touching something very real. When we breathe in and know that we are breathing in, we return to the foundation of life. These things do not need to be achieved. They were here long before we thought of searching. And in that contact, a sense of fullness begins to arise. Fullness does not mean that everything is perfect. It simply means that we are not missing ourselves. When we are no longer missing ourselves, we do not need to cling so tightly to the outside world. We can still cherish relationships, opportunities, and successes, but we no longer place our entire sense of safety there. We do not collapse when we are not recognized. We do not panic when plans change. From this inner fullness, we become more steady. Steadiness does not come from life always being easy, but from knowing that we can return. When difficulty appears, we do not need to run and grab onto something. We can pause, breathe, and be aware. We know that in this very moment, we still have enough to stand. Being less anxious does not come from controlling everything, but from no longer believing that our safety lies completely outside. Being less dependent does not mean we need no one, but that we do not lose ourselves when we are with others. Being more grounded does not mean we are stronger, but that we have recognized that the deepest refuge has always been right here. This morning, when you remind yourself that everything I need to live this day is already here, you are planting a very important seed. The seed of trust. Trust in your body. Trust in your capacity for awareness. Trust that you are not beginning the day from a place of lack, but from a foundation that is already present. From that foundation, you can step into the world with a different attitude. Not to search for fullness, but to share the fullness that is already there. Not to prove your worth, but to live in alignment with it. When there is no lack, there is no need to run. Reminder 4. I will move slowly, but with awareness. We are living in a very fast rhythm. In the morning, as soon as the eyes open, many people rush. Rush to get up. Rush to check the phone. Rush to think about what needs to be done. Rush to leave the house. Both body and mind are pulled forward, as if slowing down even a little would mean being left behind. Yet strangely, even while moving so fast, many people still feel empty. The day passes with many actions, but very little presence. Fast is no longer the same as effective. Fast only scatters the mind. When we do many things at once, the mind is not truly in any of them. We eat without knowing we are eating. We walk without feeling our steps. We speak without listening to ourselves. And when the day ends, the feeling of exhaustion appears not only because we have done a lot, but because we have repeatedly left ourselves behind. In the teachings of the Buddha, mindfulness is not about slowing life down, but about living fully in each moment. Moving slowly is not a way to resist the world, but a way to see clearly what is happening. When we see clearly, we do not get lost. And when we are not lost, we do not need to move fast. The sentence "I will move slowly, but with awareness" does not ask us to change our outer pace. It simply invites us to change how we are present in each action. Morning is a very suitable time to practice this. When we step out of bed, we can step as if we are rushing, or we can step as if we are present. When we stand up, we can stand with a tense body, or stand with a breath that knows it is standing. When we drink water, we can drink while thinking of something else, or drink and feel the coolness moving through the throat. When we open the door, we can open it in haste, or open it while knowing we are opening it. These actions are very small, yet they form the foundation of the whole day. The way we take the first steps often determines how we walk the entire journey. If the morning begins in distraction, it is very difficult for the day to become settled. But if the morning begins with even a small amount of mindfulness, the whole day has a place to lean on. The Dharma teaches that body and mind always move together. When the body moves fast, the mind is pulled along. When the body is gently brought back to slowness, the mind has a chance to return. Slowness here does not mean reducing physical speed. It means reducing the hurry inside the mind. We can move at the same speed, but the mind does not need to run ahead. The practice of this reminder is very simple and very practical. Each morning, choose one thing and do it fully. There is no need to slow everything down. Just choose one moment to stay. When walking, know that you are walking. When washing your face, know that you are washing your face. When getting dressed, know that you are getting dressed. One action. One breath. Nothing extra. When we do one thing with one breath, the mind begins to gather. We are no longer pulled into the past or the future. We are here. And when the mind is here, energy is no longer leaking away. We do not need to spend excessive effort just to maintain attention. This reduces a great deal of invisible exhaustion that we often do not notice. Many people think they are exhausted because they do too much, but very often we are exhausted because we do everything in a scattered state. The mind is pulled in many directions at once, causing each action to consume more energy than necessary. When we live with mindfulness, energy is used more fully. We do less, but we do it more deeply, and that is enough. When we remind ourselves that I will move slowly, but with awareness, we give ourselves permission to stop racing. We do not need to prove that we are always busy. We do not need to react immediately to everything. We can pause for a moment before speaking. We can take one breath before responding. These small pauses help us avoid being swept away. Being less scattered does not mean controlling every thought. It simply means knowing when the mind has wandered and gently bringing it back. Being less exhausted does not mean life becomes easier. It means we are not adding extra burdens created by our own hurry. Mindfulness in action helps us see more clearly what truly matters. When we stop running, we begin to notice what we once overlooked. A glance, a sensation in the body, a signal of tiredness, a need for rest. When we see these things, we can care for them. When we do not see them, we continue pushing ourselves forward. This morning, you do not need to move faster to keep up with life. Life does not require you to hurry. It simply invites you to be present. When you choose to slow down in the mind, you are not being left behind. You are returning to the right place. There is no need to move fast to arrive somewhere. You only need to not leave yourself behind. Reminder 5. I choose kindness over pressure today. There are pressures that are not loud, yet they are always present. They do not come from anyone else, but from the way we look at ourselves each day. We compare ourselves to others. We compare progress, achievements, appearances. We push ourselves to be better, faster, stronger. This pressure does not need to be reminded. It runs on its own inside the mind, familiar and persistent. And in the morning, as soon as we wake up, it is already there waiting for us. Comparison makes us forget our own rhythm. We look at other people's lives and then turn back to blame ourselves for being slow. We look at other people's results and decide that our own effort is not enough. This self-pressure is sometimes disguised as positive self-talk, but deep inside, it is still a form of inner violence. We do not allow ourselves to rest. We do not allow ourselves to be weak. We do not allow ourselves to make mistakes. And so, even when no one outside is pressuring us, inside we remain tense. In the teachings of the Buddha, compassion is not only for others. Compassion begins with oneself. There is no true awareness without compassion. When we treat ourselves harshly, no matter how much we try to practice, the mind finds it hard to settle. This is because the place we return to for practice is the very place that is wounded. If that place is not cared for, every other effort becomes exhausting. The sentence "I choose kindness over pressure today" is not a promise to always be gentle. It is simply a choice made in this morning. A choice to not add more pressure to what is already heavy. A choice to not use sharp words toward ourselves. A choice to allow ourselves to be human, not a project that needs constant optimization. In the morning, it is very easy to set high standards for the day ahead. Today must be productive. Today must be positive. Today I must control my emotions better. These intentions are not wrong, but when they are paired with pressure, they become a burden. We begin the day with a sense of forcing ourselves. And when forcing goes on too long, we forget how to relax. The Dharma teaches that compassion is the deepest healing energy. When we look at ourselves with compassionate eyes, we do not deny what is still not well, but we do not punish ourselves for it. We see that we are trying. We see that we are tired. We see that we need rest. And simply seeing this is enough for the mind to begin to soften. The practice of this reminder is very close and very human. In the morning, try speaking to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love. If that person were tired, you would not push them. If they made a mistake, you would not scold them. You would speak more gently. You would listen. You would give them time. When we turn that way of speaking toward ourselves, something very important happens. We stop hurting ourselves from within. Many people believe that if they do not push themselves, they will become lazy. But in reality, it is often the opposite. When we are treated with kindness, we have more energy to live. When we are not crushed by pressure, we have space for clarity. Compassion does not make us weak. It makes us resilient. When we choose gentleness toward ourselves, the way we see the world also changes. We become less harsh toward others. We react less when things do not go our way. We understand that everyone is carrying their own burdens. When the inside softens, the outside softens as well. This spreading does not require effort. It happens naturally when the mind is no longer tightly clenched. A day that begins with compassion is often lighter. Not because there are no difficulties, but because we do not add extra difficulty by blaming ourselves. We can work, face challenges, and resolve things without beating ourselves each time we are not perfect. We allow ourselves to learn instead of judge. We allow ourselves to move step by step instead of forcing a leap. Healing the root of inner self-violence is a process. It does not happen in one morning, but each morning we can choose not to add more harm. We can choose to pause before speaking harshly to ourselves. We can choose to breathe instead of blame. These small choices, repeated again and again, gradually create a new foundation for the mind. When pressure appears during the day, we can return to this reminder, not to avoid responsibility, but to remember how we want to treat ourselves. We still do what needs to be done, but we do not trade away gentleness. We still move forward, but we do not drag ourselves along. Compassion toward oneself is not separate from awareness. On the contrary, it is the condition that allows awareness to arise. When we are not afraid of being punished inside, we dare to look directly at what is happening. We dare to admit mistakes. We dare to change. And all of this can only grow in a space that feels safe. This morning, when you remind yourself that I choose kindness over pressure today, you are setting a very clear direction. Not a direction of forced strength, but a direction of care. From that direction, the day becomes lighter. And when the day is lighter, the person becomes lighter too. This morning, I do not need to be strong. I need to be kind.